Wow, look at this. Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for showing up. Can I have a raise of hands of everybody from the Pearl District? Okay. And everybody from 24th or the Northwest District? And then other districts. All right, like that, that's good. Okay. Like to welcome everybody here, and we're very excited to have the mayor here. And it was not a small lift. We had to evacuate him from a camping trip with some disadvantaged youth, but we did it. So I'd like to thank also Portland City Center Stage and the Armory, because they have allowed us. They have allowed us to use this complimentary, and they have always thought of themselves as being the center of the neighborhood, and so this is a great way to kind of showcase that. And you probably know, similar to other places in Portland, they are struggling because of funding. And so anything that you can see your way forward to donate and help them out, it would be much appreciated. They are a very valuable asset to the community. So I'd like to welcome everybody to the town hall. I apologize for my voice, but this is what you're gonna hear. It's not George Clooney, but sorry. My name is Bruce Studer. I'm the president of the Pearl District Association, drafted 4 months ago. And we've put together this event to learn more about the overnight and shelter system that's opening on 14th and Northrop. And tonight's goal is to get information from the city leadership. We brought as high as we could get. And our elected officials about the site. It's an opportunity to listen, connect, and engage our concerns. So in the email invitations that we sent out, we'd asked that if you could send in questions ahead of time, we'd appreciate it. We got a lot of them. Also, we're accepting questions here, written questions. There are people along the side that have 3x5 note cards. And if you have a question that comes up and you want to write it down, they will get it. And then my trusty assistant, Bill Tricali, right behind me, that looks like Al Pacino, is going to go through them and sort them. If we already have a question on the topic or something similar, he's going to not hand it to me, but if it's the stroke of genius, he will. So anyway, the agenda for tonight's town hall, and we have the mayor until 7 o'clock. So we have him for as long as we probably need him, and longer than he might want to be here. But we'll start off with some brief introductions of all our presenters. The mayor then will take some time to talk about his plan to end unsheltered homelessness. Portland's Solutions Director, which is Schuyler, will then speak about the operations of the site. Commander Brian Hughes, in the middle, from Portland Police Bureau, will speak about the current and future police operations and missions in the area. And then we'll give our district councilors, who are all here, and that's a feat. I mean, anybody should buy a lottery ticket today, because look, we got the mayor, we got the police chief, we got the commander, we got Schuyler, and we got 3. So it's a lottery. And then finally, the remainder of the time, we'll get to questions and answers. And the mayor said he'll stay until 7, so that's good. The format for the question and answers is, like I said, pre-submitted questions with the opportunity to ask questions here. But it's all written. We do not want this to become acrimonious. We want to show the mayor and show the city at large that we can be respectful, we can disagree, but without being too disagreeable. So I'll moderate the discussion and try to focus on as many different questions as possible, and we're looking forward to that. Now, introductions of our guests. First, I'd like to welcome Mayor Keith Wilson. Mayor Wilson is going to talk about sheltering and housing, and we're excited to hear about that. Then next will be Skylar Brocker, and I always screw her name up, so I continue to. Brocker Knapp of Portland Solutions. Now, Portland Solutions is and you'll find out in a second, but it's the shelter operation that's directly under the mayor's office. So she runs everything shelter. So she's Skylar Shelter. And then Commander Brian Hughes, who oversees the Central Precinct for the Portland Police Bureau, and we'll talk about police operations. And then our 3 district councilors, Councilor Olivia Clark, Mitch Green, and Eric Zimmerman. So let's begin with Mayor Wilson. I'm excited to see him here. And would you come and talk about your plan?
Well, good afternoon. This is a difficult place to be. I want you to know I have a bit of PTSD because the last time I was in the Armory, I had to sing a rap song as a candidate. It was cringeworthy as well, and it was really bad. And I got elected, which is extraordinary. Well, thank you all very much. I want to thank you for coming here. Thank you to the councilors. Really appreciate you coming and being a part of this as well. Commander, Skylar, really appreciate this opportunity. I know there's a lot of questions, and I hope that we have an opportunity to just kind of take those questions, or at least the tip of that iceberg. But what Bruce and Bill wanted me to do is just outline the shelter strategy and just stay laser focused on that, and then hopefully we can have a really solid dialogue on kind of the what, the how, and how we're going to get there together. And I framed it really in 3 key topics: why, the plan, and then goals. And I'll cover each one specifically. And I always want to start with why. And it's always what I believe, and I hope you believe too, that allowing people to suffer and die on our streets in Portland is not who we are. It's not who I am. We lost just shy of 500 people in 2023, and we're expecting that to climb in 2024. You know somebody on the streets right now through the 1, 2, 3, 6 degrees of separation. I guarantee you through 2 degrees, my neighbor is on the street right now. I have high school classmates I find. We have to address the suffering. And I believe that we can find a bed for every person in Portland in need every single night. Because we have to do that. We must do that. I believe those that are incapacitated on our streets, that are person down, we must rush to, because we once did. It wasn't normal when we drove down the street, walked down the street, that we would walk by somebody sitting on the street or lying on the street. 2 Thursdays ago, I walked into City Hall and I looked down the street and there was a person in front of the Portland building, my house, your house, just across the sidewalk. And I'm thinking to the 8,500 employees that I'm the leader of, if I walk by that person, I created a new policy that says that that's normal. It is not normal. I rushed to that person and I started caring for him. I got PSR on the line, Portland Street Response, and I asked for somebody to arrive. Only then did security from the Portland building come out and say, Mr. Mayor, what are you doing? I said, well, we've got a fella down. He needs care. He needs help. Mr. Mayor, can I help? I said, absolutely you can help. Can you take this call? Yes, I'm happy to. And I walked off to work. Because leaders have to lead from the front. We can no longer follow or let people suffer on the street in that measure. That's what I'm going to promise you. If I have to spend all day stopping on the way in, then that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to ask at some point that you help do this as well. And when we provide that care, we're able to enforce our community standards where someone doesn't live in a business's corridor and treat it like a toilet or a bedroom. That's against the law. But we have to have a place for that person to go before we really can enforce the law. Or as Commander just said, all we're doing is moving people away. And he just said earlier, I'm tired of moving people from one street to the other without a positive outcome. And I want you to know this is urgent. If there's anything you should all know is the tone that I've brought to this city for the last 18 months, that this is a crisis, it's a humanitarian crisis, and we're going to treat it like a crisis. And we're not going to give in, we are not going to fail. Every person who works for me in the senior level had to ask this one question and answer it. And the litmus test was, you must agree to end unsheltered homelessness by December 1st. You cannot have this job. You cannot join my team unless you focus on this one key requirement. And they've all said yes, from the chief to the city administrator and on and on. And I ask for you to join me in that one singular focus. In the city, we have one crisis today. Many challenges, yes, but the mission is set. We have to hit that mission. And the plan, we are going to rapidly set up a network of nighttime and day shelters to care for everybody every moment of the day. Not just overnight shelters, but day shelters. People are going to work the next day that are living in their cars and RVs and in tents. You cannot hold and have a job while you're trying to live in a tent to get to work the next day. We can provide the dignity of an opportunity of somebody who just lost a home or somebody just trying to get off the street to provide care. By focusing on this, we're able to provide relief to the entire system. Just about 20% of the calls of our fire department are to the unsheltered. Commander Hughes was just saying, Keith, I think it's 50% of our calls are to the unsheltered. We have to be able to reduce the burden on our public safety officials, or they're not going to be able to make the call when you're in crisis. I get a report on our priority response times. Last week, 22.8 minutes in your worst time of need for an officer to arrive. 6 or 7 years ago, it was 8. We have to address this. We cannot walk past this particular crisis for us to turn our city around. And we're able to do this. We're able to then address the housing, the mental illness, the addiction, address our streets, gun violence, the tax burden, and so many other things. We spend hundreds and hundreds of millions in the cost of poor quality, COPQ, of setting up fences and rocks and all these things to mitigate and try and keep people from camping there, when we should just be providing the opportunity for care that night. And we should be a no camping town. We should be a caring town. And that's what we've been focusing on. Until we address this critical first priority, our community will be stuck in quicksand like we are right now, pointing fingers to everybody. They're responsible, or that person's responsible, but nothing gets moved forward, and we're continuing to just spin our wheels without any traction as we see our city in decline, the worst job rate in the nation, the highest vacancy in our downtown core. Fred Meyer's in District 1 just closed. I met with Eric Nordstrom's the other day, and he says, Keith, I don't know how long we can continue to operate in Portland. How many of our signature businesses do we have to lose before we step up and we say, enough, enough, enough? And that's what I've been trying to talk to Portland about, and that's why I've been relentless in this conversation about turning our city around. Goals. There are 6 key goals that I've set up for the city. Every Monday, Director Brocker Knapp holds an incident command meeting that I'm there because this is an emergency. We're treating it like an emergency. We have county who participates, metro who participates, state legislators that participate. Anybody who wants to be in this meeting, we invite. And we start with this one very critical first point. How many days to December 1st? It's 126. Every major leadership meeting I have starts with that critical first date. We are not going to lose sight of this. We're making a promise, and we cannot fail you. And of those 6 items, the first, tent distribution. The Monday after the election, I began meeting with Chair Vega Peterson, and every meeting I had with her since said, we cannot be a humane city and hand out tents. We handed out last year more than 5,000 tents and 20,000 tarps. We cannot, at the same time, foster the behavior that I am trying to, and we must end on our streets, and that's unsheltered homelessness. I'm happy to say that 2 months ago, she agreed, and we're not handing out tents anymore, and we're seeing the tent count fall. We must focus on safe and appropriate diversion or reunification, rapid exit mindset. Anybody who comes up to our shelter door, we must ask them this key question: are you ready to go home? If your home is in Portland, where is it? Can we connect you with your family member? We can have you in their arms, a loved one, a friend within hours. Safe and appropriate diversion, reunification. Starting December 1st, I expect 14 people per week to be reunified, 700 people next year to be reunified. I know because they do it in Boston, they do it in Phoenix, and it works. Ask the question. On our website, the 311 website, you now have an opportunity. If somebody is suffering on the street, can I help you get home? I can have you there in hours. You click that button, and we connect you with an outreach worker. It worked yesterday. Commander Hughes and his team member connected Skylar and her team. We had somebody within hours to Fresno on an Alaska Airlines flight because TSA is partnering with us. They help move them through the gates to the airplane, and we have that 64-year-old in his family's hands within hours. Isn't that the right thing to be doing? 26% of the people, 26% of those suffering in Portland are from out of state. The lowest cost form of housing is connecting somebody with family. I'm not professing that we need to set up 7,000 shelter beds or house 7,000 people. I'm just professing that we need to connect people with the services that what their needs are, and the needs are different from everybody. And we will actively work as fast as we can to do that. Number 3 is shelter best practices. In 2017, our shelter system sheltered somebody on average for 23 days. Today, it's 77 days. It was unheard of to think of anybody living in a shelter for over a year. Today, we have just shy of 300 people. We have 3,200 shelter beds today. If we had the same shelter throughput that we did in 2017, we could shelter every single person in Portland. We must have bed utilization. If we provide you a bed, you must be in it. That's what other high-performing systems do, and that's what Portland must do. We must have length of stay, because when you're in the shelter, you must know there's a time-limited stay, and we're here to help you, and you must engage in services. Those are simple practices that work in high-performing operations around the nation, and they must work here. I have lunch with Chair Vega Peterson next week, and she wants to learn more. I've been on this for months and months and months. We have a low-performing system, and we see the results in our streets. We can change that ourselves. When you're failing, you don't continue to do the same thing over and over again. You learn from it. You try something different, and you pivot. And that's what we're going to do, and I'm confident she'll be there to support. Around the 1,500 shelters that I'm professing, we need to set up engagement zones, and that's what we're here to really talk about. Is we're rapidly setting up shelters. We have 3 right now. We have 3 more, 2 next week. We have this Northrop facility that we're looking for. In the shelters that we've opened, we've seen a reduction in crime. We've seen an increase in business. I met with Mustafa Noor last week. He has the market next to the Moore Street shelter. He says his business is up. He says there's people not sleeping in corridors anymore. I walked his community with him. He's thrilled with the success of the shelter, and he is a half a block away from that shelter. We can care for people and improve our businesses. When we look at this area of the Pearl, in 2023, we had 95 empty storefronts. In 2024, it was 115. Your condo values are falling. That is your retirement in some cases. We've got to reduce that. We cannot continue to do what we're doing and expect different outcomes. We've seen the city suffering. Bud Clark 40 years ago said enough was enough. He had fortified wine and heroin rampaging Old Town. Businesses were suffering the same as they are today. He created private-public partnerships, and he set up these overnight shelters, and he provided care, and he turned the city around. And it ushered in a renaissance for 40 years of success in Portland that only in the last few have we started to not see. We can reverse our decline, but we have to do it together. The sheltering system is that basic life-saving care that we're going to provide for those that are suffering today, because it leads us to that next stage, which is reestablishing community standards. I had talked to you earlier about people living in corridors. I ride with Chat. I ride with Portland Street Response and police and fire. And on my first ride with Chat, there was somebody living in a apartment corridor, and we walked by it. I had 4 Chat officers with me. That's the community health and assess and treat. And I said, hold on, guys. We're walking by this person, and we deal with low acuity calls. Let's go back. They weren't addressing it. And I went and we started speaking with the fella, and we walked by 2 more people. Same with Portland Street Response and officers. Commander Hughes and Chief Day are working. We're not going to be walking by people suffering. It's against the law for an officer to drive by somebody who is incapacitated on the street. It's against the law to live in a business corridor or an apartment car. It is against the law to be in a tent or an abandoned car or in an RV without a license. It's not operable. It's not registered. I went out with our RV tow company just 2 weeks ago in Northwest Portland, and an officer was with us. And I looked at the record of that person, the truck and the RV that just kept moving. For 8 years, we kept moving that person. It was like 300 interactions. I explained to the officer it wasn't registered. The person wasn't licensed. The car was not insured. By right, it can't be driven on the road. And the officer explained to the individual, I'm sorry, we can't let you drive off. It's an illegal vehicle. And when that person said, but wait a second, you've been amicable in the past. And the officer said, I'm sorry, but we can't allow that vehicle on the road. But we had an outreach worker there and said, but I can get you into shelter. I can get you into an SRV, a Safe Rest Village. And the guy took the shelter. 8 years of that process of moving them around. That's what we're providing by creating shelter. Is no more RVs on your streets moving from point A to point B to C, only to go back to point A, because that's what's been going on. We can address and care for the individuals and care for you and make sure our laws are applying to both the housed and the unhoused equally. And then number 6, we have to focus on housing, which is the back end. And that's what our counselors and I did just 2 weeks ago. They voted 11-0 to remove all systems development charges to build 5,000 market rate homes within 3 years. On Sunday, I'll be in Atlanta working with the mayor there to learn about their sheltering, their housing strategy. They have actively opened up 7,000 rooms in homes at deeply affordable rates, $600-700. So an elderly person who has an empty room, because we have 2,000 empty rooms in Portland, 200,000 empty rooms in Portland, that are empty. Think about an elderly person who's struggling to live in place, paying for taxes, if they're able to rent to another elderly individual. Do you know the elderly are the fastest growing unsheltered and homeless group we have in Portland right now? We can provide housing at $600 to $700 per month for the individual. Or think about that high school kiddo who's just joining the workforce, who now can live and stay in Portland. We have to not only just shelter our unsheltered, but we got to focus on housing our homeless. But we've got to focus on the front end with as much effort as we're focusing on the back end. And that's those 6 key goals that we're focusing on in city. So Bruce, I want to thank you for this opportunity to just kind of explain, and I know you have some questions and I look forward to answering. I know Sky will help you with the operational aspect as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
He's a little taller than I am. Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Okay, next up is Skylar Bacher-Knapp. Hold on. There's a bio here somewhere. Okay. She's Director of Portland Solutions. She oversees the city, sorry. That's why my wife says I have to read all this. City Shelter Services. All right, you can edit that for the TV, okay? The city's outreach team, the Impact Reduction Program, and PIMO, the city's livability program. With a background in law and public policy, she's a duck. She focuses on, there's a couple of ducks here, I'm a Spartan, but on innovation solutions to complex challenges. Skye is a native Portlander and proud to serve her city. She has worked for Senator Ron Wyden, Mayor Ted Wheeler, and now for City Administrator Michael Jordan. She and her team have tasked with implementing the Mayor Wilson's homeless initiative. So, Skylar, would you?
All right, good evening. I am a lot taller, sorry. Thanks, Bruce. So I am tasked with implementing the plan, and I just wanted to run through some of the operational details quickly. Some of you already know some of these details, but I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of some of these facts, and I know we're running low on time, so I'm gonna run through pretty quickly. But I just wanted to first say that the site operator for this site is Salvation Army, and we've got Major Harvey and Melody Muskowski here, who are delightful executives of Salvation Army, and I really appreciate their partnership, so thank you for being here. And the site is going to host adults of all genders, so men and women, and the site is going to host 40 participants at opening. I know there's been numbers flying around, so I just wanted to clarify some numbers. We're going to start with 40 people and kind of ease in to operations at full speed. We're scaling up to 200 people by December 1st. This is a maximum capacity, so we don't anticipate that we're going to be under full utilization, just given our other shelters and our experiences. The shelter is low barrier, so there's no requirement for an ID or to be sober, but drugs are not allowed on the premises. Hours of operation are going to be 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. And I'm going to walk through just some of the process because I know folks have had a lot of questions. So people aren't allowed to queue until an hour before the opening, and if they do so, they will not be given shelter. So that's part of engagement at the site. Beds are reserved from the night before, which discourages queuing. So if folks stay one night, they know that they have a bed reserved for them the next day. After they arrive, they'll check in with the Salvation Army staff. Participants make their way to their assigned bed. There's water and a light snack that's provided, and then they lay down for the night. When folks wake up in the morning, the wake-up process starts at 5:30 in the morning, and 6 a.m. folks need to leave the shelter. So at leaving, they receive a resource card with available resources in the surrounding area and where they can go if they need to, and services that are provided. And we make a plan with each participant. So the shelter staff and outreach teams will make a plan with each individual. We are working with Portland Streetcar as well and other transportation providers to transport folks to different resources. And then toward closing of the shelter, outreach teams are deployed specifically to that site to engage with participants and encourage them to find that next step, that next plan, a day shelter, for example, but each individual is different. And then we're building trust and relationships through that process, so we find that that actually moves folks along very quickly. We're able to engage them, build those relationships. We're also working with different aspects of the city, so park rangers, for example, and PBOT and other city workers. We're also collaborating with PPB, so the police department, in the area to ensure that folks are moving to their destination. So our outreach teams work every single day with the Central Precinct team, bike squad, all the different officers know our team by name. We have each other's cell phone numbers, and we immediately can connect with them if there are any issues in the area. So there's deep collaboration there. And I just want to talk quickly about day resources, because that's been something that folks have asked about. So we're in the process of expanding day centers for participants throughout the city, but Join is one of those partners with the city, and we'll be expanding their hours of operations and service days. We're also in the process of developing and executing day centers in all of the areas of the city. So part of the mayor's plan and budget is to increase day center capacity for each district, and there are centers for folks who are homeless or otherwise to find a safe space to warm up. or cool down in the summer and receive the different resources. So medical resources, workforce development resources, food, housing resources, and they will also have opportunities to connect with other providers on site. Quickly, the mayor mentioned the engagement plan. I just wanted to thank Councilors Zimmerman and Clark for providing funding for Central City Concerns Clean Start program for sidewalk cleaning and trash removal. That will happen along the entire corridor from our new St. Stephen shelter that's opening in Southwest Portland next week all the way to Northrop. So that is going to be daily cleaning 7 days a week, and they do an excellent job along those corridors. We're also working to use all of the city's resources to support the neighborhood. So the mayor mentioned this, but I'm just going to give a highlight too. Priority access for graffiti removal, unsanctioned camp abatement, trash cleaning. And so we're sending information out to those within 1,000 feet of the shelter, and they will be given access to reporting mechanisms so you know exactly how to report all of those different aspects, and you'll immediately jump kind of to the priority top of the line. If you see something that's an issue, still please report it, even if you're outside those 1,000 feet. That's how we know exactly where to go. That's how we get there as quickly as possible. So please continue to report anything that you see. Our teams assess and then post the sites as quickly as possible under state law. So our impact reduction program that I oversee picked up over 12.4 million pounds of trash last year. So we're doing that all over the city, and we'll be prioritizing that in these specific areas as well. Businesses, we're working with Prosper Portland to engage businesses that have been in frequent contact with kind of that local area. We're also talking to the surrounding businesses around the site. So if you have not received contact from me, you will, and we are engaging directly with those folks. And Bruce and Bill know where to find me, so you can also connect with them. For site development, just quickly, this site was developed by our site development team. We evaluate availability, pricing, the proximity to transportation, proximity to services and support. We're evaluating sites all over the city, so every inch of the city right now in every district. And as part of our notification procedure, once we arrive at a decision about a site, we reach out to neighbors and community associations. So some of you got those flyers around that 1,000 feet if you're in that vicinity. Because of how fast we're moving, we want to make sure we give communities a few months to ask questions and get information as we develop operations at the site. I've talked to many of you, but our team is available to discuss any of these details. I just wanted to make sure that I got level set kind of some of the specifics that folks had asked about prior to tonight. So thank you for hosting us, and we look forward to answering your questions. And we'll also be around just the city, so Bruce and Bill are able to connect you with me if you want. Thank you.
Thank you, Skylar. Next, we have Commander Brian Hughes from the Central Precinct, Portland Police Department. Commander Hughes leads the Central Precinct of the Portland Police Bureau, overseeing public safety operations in the city's downtown core and surrounding neighborhoods. With over 2 decades of service, Commander Hughes has extensive experience in community policing, crisis response, and collaborative problem solving. He works closely with the city's agencies, service providers, and neighborhood leaders to address livability concerns and a strong focus on compassionate and effective responses to homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges. Commander Hughes.
Good evening, everybody. I did not prepare any statements or anything. I'm not as well spoken as the mayor, but I am candid, and I think our city councilors and my coworkers on City Hall know that that's how I speak. And so I'm just going to tell it to you like it is. What the mayor said about call response times and stats, he threw out some stats. I want to share just 2 realistic stories about my last 2 weeks at work. Last week on my way home, I live out on the east side. I saw a call that was holding for service. It was in District 1, and it was for a burglary. And the resident was somewhere else and saw on a camera their house being broken into. And all of the officers at East Precinct were occupied on priority calls at that time. There was nobody to break away. Even the sergeants were with their officers on calls. We had reached capacity. And that call held for 10 minutes. The homeowner drove home and saw what we later found out was a stolen car out in front of the house. And they had seen this person go in through the window on their Ring camera. I'm presuming that's what it was. But they came home, and the man came out of the house with their vacuum cleaner and put it in the car and then went back into the house. And I'm just like, what are we doing? And that is a very real call that happened within the last 7 days. Now, when the person was there on scene, the person coming out of the house, we were able to find other officers from all around and started pulling officers from further off to come to this call for service. And I think maybe we even lost some officers from Central Precinct to drive all the way out to the east side, officers who would normally be patrolling here in the Pearl, to go handle that. But when he's talking about the capacity that we're at for dealing with some of the calls we deal with, and a lot of them are mental health based and houseless based, that really puts a strain on our resources. And I'm just giving you a real life example. Ultimately, the officers came and they were able to resolve the call, take the person into custody, and everything was safe. But 12 minutes, that's how long? And that's a lifetime. I mean, when you're looking at that on your Ring camera at home and seeing that, and so really resonated with me when the mayor was talking about freeing up that, that calls for service that we go to with our unsheltered population, especially here in the city center. I was just thinking as he was talking about that all the things we could do and problems we could solve with the crimes that are going on. We had the Pride Festival that just happened 2 weeks ago. It was awesome. I came down, was present. Anytime there are 30 to 40,000 people in the precinct, I get a little nervous and I want to be here personally. Went off without a hitch. No problems whatsoever. But my officers that day were dealing with a couple of incidents on the periphery of that thing that were making people really uncomfortable, behavioral health type things with a couple people that were unsheltered. And what I would like to have done that day is ensure that my officers are, providing safety for the people that are at the festival, but then also like maybe car prowls and break-ins and garages so that we send a positive message for people that are coming to enjoy our great city, that it's okay to do it and come here and your stuff will be safe and you will be safe. Ultimately, we did provide a presence and everyone was safe that day, but I'm just thinking of all the things I can do as your police commander when it comes to crimes and criminal things, and not so much dealing with the unsheltered. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the amount of people that pass away in our city who are unsheltered. As a police commander, I log onto my computer every day, and I go into the office, and I face a daunting day of emails and Zoom calls all day long. I'm not a police officer anymore. I do a managerial job and that role. But anyway, I log onto the computer every day. And throughout the day, supervisors are notified of calls when somebody has lost their life, be it natural causes or oftentimes unsheltered in a tent. And so at 4 or 5 o'clock when I'm done with my day and I go home, all these calls have now banked up in my computer, and I go through them one by one and I read them before I leave. And it is very sad to read some of those stories. Person in a tent, person in a cave underneath Barbara Boulevard that had been there for weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'm like, what are we doing? How is this like that? So I just wanted to present some more candid kind of real incidents from my life as your police commander. I'll touch briefly on our plans for the Police Bureau when it comes to the shelter sites that are being stood up. My goal and my hope is that we have no involvement at all. I have found Director Brocker-Knapp and the mayor's team to be very responsive at outreach and community engagement and hiring people to encourage people to change behavior, to go into shelters. That's working. City Administrator Michael Jordan, when you all changed your form of government here in the city and we have city administrators, the silos really did fall. Director Brocker-Knapp can text me, and sometimes on the weekends or after hours, which is fine, because we're solving problems, and she and her team are solving problems. But we communicate all the time now, and the silos are really dropping. What the mayor said about towing RVs and police involvement with towing RVs. We didn't usually send a police officer when PBOT would go out to do these towing of RVs. And I remember when the mayor was running for election, he said, I remember very clearly, Mr. Mayor, and it was like between two ferns, you were doing a podcast, and the young people interviewing you said, well, we're hearing that when PBOT goes out to tow these RVs, that several of them are driving away. And the mayor's response was, oh, they can't drive away. They're not licensed and they're not registered. And I was like, well, that's kind of what we're seeing. And so This is a true story. The mayor gets into office and he calls on PBOT to change how they're doing things and incorporate us a little bit more with the silos coming down. The head of PBOT, who works with towing the vehicles, the parking enforcement gentleman, his name is Mike Krebs, he gets all the precinct commanders, me included, on a conference call about this problem and asks, can I have officers come and join my team when we're towing these vehicles, because people are just driving them off and they don't have licenses and they're not registered. I saw somebody clapped over here for that. And I was like, all right, we're gonna help. Because I remember what the mayor said in his election thing. And it worked. And so instead of towing 2 and then 3 drive off, they're now towing 5. And these are unregistered vehicles. These are the inhumane conditions that the mayor's talking about, where people are dumping the sewer from these RVs sometimes into our city's sewer drains. That's real. That happens. And that's not humane. People should not live in that condition. And so I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing here and the plans that are in place. I can assure you that I will have my bike patrol officers, my behavioral health unit officers, my service coordination team officers, and neighborhood response team officers ready to go should things need a police presence. But at this time, I don't anticipate that. I haven't seen it at the Safe Shelter. We have a shelter down at 2nd and Burnside. You saw some data maybe last week in the Oregonian. They interviewed me about the data and the crime going down. I'm happy to say that crime is going down for the most part in the city center of Portland. And when I say city center, I don't mean the Downtown Neighborhood Association. I mean the Pearl, Northwest District, Goose Hollow, all of it going down. And you're right, somebody said not true. There's some aspects where it is going up. And one aspect is stolen cars. You're right. You're right. Yeah, but violent crimes are going down. Our shootings are going down. Those crimes are going down. Do we have work to do on the stolen cars? Absolutely. I agree with you there. And they are going down in other parts of the city, and we can do some work here at Central Precinct, and we're working on that. One of the things that we're working on here at Central Precinct is the drug dealing. The drug dealing, when I first came here a year ago, was rampant. And I mean, you could go in certain parts of the city and watch people hand out of a baggie right into the tin foil and then being smoked. You could see that, and you could probably go see it right now. Yeah, totally. So here, let me get this back. Hang on, let me get this back. So what I did and what Central Precinct did was focus on the drug dealing, the larger quantities that were coming down. We took a business model approach to this because, to be honest with you, people using drugs, I could go after that all day long, and I could just chase my tail, and it's kind of like that whack-a-mole thing we were talking about, just one after the other after the other. But we had to be compassionate about this. One, there was no compassion for drug dealing. And can I finish? 54 people doing commercial drug sales we have taken into custody in Central Precinct. All of them are in custody today. All of them. Now, that's not gonna go very far when you can walk 4 blocks from here and probably see somebody handing to somebody else. I get it, and we're gonna continue to work on it. I'm going to continue to address it. We're going to continue to run missions. I ran one right here at 12th and Cooch. We had our mobile precinct down here. Commissioner, I think it was Commissioner Zimmerman maybe was out with us for that one. And we did it up at Cooch Park as well, where we just focused on people that were dealing and people that were using. We also focused on people that were using drugs and took 78 people that week over to deflection, to give them a chance at something different in life than coming out and using drugs every day. So that's just kind of a quick highlight on what we're doing. And we pledge to be good partners in this. I've talked to my co-workers over at North Precinct that have had the Moore Street Shelter open for some time now. That was Commander Rob Simon out there. I've been in touch with him on how things are going. He's keeping me updated on how they are being successful and doing the work they're doing over there. And I plan to continue that here at Central Precinct with these shelters. So with that, I'm going to end, and I think maybe we'll do some questions. And I really appreciate you having me here tonight, folks. Thank you.
Okay, now it's the city commissioner's time, councilor's time. So, question. Did I misspeak? Okay, so we have questions from the audience, and we'll do the questions now. Not on my schedule, but we're going to do it now. So, okay, question. Okay, so that's the reason that we had questions written. So if we'd all be respectful, we'll get to the questions. So let's see which one I want to start with. Okay. With 1.5% of the population of the city, why are we going to have almost 20% of the homeless shelter beds between Northrop and Lovejoy? So.
It's not a numbers game in the sense that we didn't intentionally plan on putting a shelter in this particular area, but you could say that about the downtown core, and it's not just the Northrop. We have shelters going in all four corners of our city. It's not just one shelter that we're opening up, so we're not intentionally putting it here. We had an opportunity that was provided to us by a community member. It's a great location. We have 600 people living unsheltered in the area. We removed 1,100 tents last year in this community. We have people suffering in the Northwest area, and so we wanted to put the resource close to where the need was, and that's where it is.
Come on. Okay, so how do shelters get sited, and how are sites selected, and how are neighborhoods engaged in those selections?
I went through a little bit of this before, but we have a site development team, so they scour all available properties across the city. Right now, they're engaged with 6 different property owners across the entire city in every other district, not District 4, for other shelters that we're negotiating right now. So we look at a few different elements, but basically space, the layout of the building, availability, pricing, proximity to transportation, like I mentioned, and proximity to different services. So we've cited, I've now oversee about 12 different shelters across the entire city of Portland. They're in all different districts, and there's a lot of different aspects that go into that. But we've learned a lot about exactly what's most helpful, where shelters can be successful, and some of those aspects I just laid out. So transportation is a huge aspect, but also the building itself. And then we have a budget, obviously, that we're working under, as the mayor's mentioned in a lot of different presentations and as we negotiated with different government entities. So we look at what we can fit in our price range as well. Oh, yes, thank you. Sorry. So yes, I mentioned the 1,000-foot flyers that we hand out. So the mayor's plan, he talked about an engagement zone and engaging folks in that surrounding area. So what we've done, and you can go on our website and look at the different aspects that will be in that immediate area, but those are all based on good neighbor agreements and other negotiations we've had with a lot of other shelters of what people have asked for. So I think trash pickup, graffiti removal, priority camp removal, priority car and RV towing. So those are things that people have asked for. Outreach and engagement to individuals that they see in that vicinity. So they wanted outreach there. They wanted a presence on site. We found that to be successful. And then obviously meeting with the community every 2 weeks. So if you don't know about PEMO, the Public Environment Management Office, we meet with folks, 16 different meetings every 2 weeks, and we meet with individuals. We have a Northwest meeting, and you can bring anything that you think is a city issue to those meetings. We create a punch list, we go through it very quickly, and then we come back to you 2 weeks later and say, okay, we got rid of this graffiti, we helped with this trash can, you mentioned this person, we connected them with outreach, you have this permitting issue, we can connect you with the permitting bureau. So if you're interested in those meetings, that's another way to get involved. They're called the problem solver meetings, and they happen every 2 weeks. So I'm happy to get folks that information.
Okay. So, okay. There's a lot of concern about sanitation, cleanliness, trash, and how do we get in front of that instead of allowing it to happen and be a blight that reaches and spills across the Pearl. Is there a plan for that?
Yes, so I mentioned the Clean Start program, so those are folks who are out, they're gonna be out 7 days a week around the different site. You may have seen them before, they have the barrels that they push around. We'll also have power washing in the immediate vicinity, so we have a contractor that provides that. And then obviously the camp removal. So we'll be picking up trash every single day. We will have the provider walking around the site. We will have outreach workers who are also walking around the site and are able to pick up trash. But we won't just be working right around that vicinity, that will be for the entire neighborhood. So we're not just gonna stop within that 1,000 feet. We are doing that graffiti removal, that trash pickup every single day.
Okay. Okay, yeah, in the facility itself, that's a good question. How many, and I know that I've been in there, so I know that this was talked about, so you guys know, how many showers, how many toilets, what's the laundry facility, what's that?
Yeah, so we have 2 showers that are there, so folks will be prioritized for those. We also are building showers within our day services, so folks really appreciate having that option during the day. There are 6 restrooms, so 3 for men, 3 for women. And then, what was the other one, Bruce? Laundry services, yes. So we can install laundry services. So we do that with a lot of different providers, and we work with the facility. We also have laundry services through the Impact Reduction Program, through Ground Score Association. So they actually launder a lot of our materials for folks who are living outside or in shelters.
So for low barrier shelters, so a Body Box, which is a dance studio that's 536 feet away, and has 800 kids that go to classes or camps there year-round. So is there, when somebody comes to the shelter, is there a screening for sexual predators or sex offenders or those types of individuals?
So folks who are sex offenders must legally register, and we actually work in partnership with PPB, parole, probation, to make sure that we're providing that structure and engaging with them, and they're following everything that they need to follow. So yes, we do engage with different individuals to make sure that they are abiding by all the rules.
Okay, we got it. So how do you, do they have to self-identify, or do you, if you're not asking for identification, I guess, how do you find out whether they are or not?
Yeah, so it is a low barrier shelter. So folks are required, as a sex offender, you are required to register, but that low barrier shelter is not gonna take the ID. So that is not gonna be part of kind of that immediate screening process. We will engage with the individual, and then we will try to connect them to different services, their parole or probation officer, PPB if we think that's necessary. So that's how we do that.
Okay, so I think I'm as confused as everybody in the audience here. So I'm not, but let's just say I was one of these individuals. And I come and I wanted to have shelter. So I don't want to tell you because I want shelter. So is there any way for you to know that other than me telling you?
Yes, because you can look online to see if people are registered as a sex offender. And then we also will engage with that individual. So we have caseworkers and we have service providers on site who are engaging with that person.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm with you guys, so I agree. It wasn't satisfactory, but, okay. So, hold on. Could you just relax? I'll ask a couple of snarky questions here, just because you let some steam out. They want to know if there's going to be a shelter next to your house, Mr. Mayor. So.
No problem. So, when I was running for mayor, before I announced, I invited my neighbors in to my house. And I wanted to tell them that being the mayor of Portland is really a community support group. With what happened with Mayor Wheeler and so on and so forth, he had an awful lot of people coming outside his home, apartment being burnt down, or at least a fire being set. And so it wasn't just something I wanted to do. I had to make sure my neighbors We're going to be ready for this. And one of them said, you know, I'm nervous. And the unsheltered homelessness is growing so much. And I explained that we have to address it to my neighbors. And they said, why do we want to do this? Why do we want to help? Why do we want to become part of this process of carrying and turning around our city? And my wife turned to the crowd and said, you know, we don't have unsheltered homelessness on our block right now. But if we don't do something now, and I trust my husband, it might happen. So why don't we just take care of it right now and trust him to care for the city? So the question was, do I have a shelter? The Moore Street is near my home. It's on Williams in Vancouver. I ride by it. I stop by it often. I stop in and I see the coworkers. I slept there. Is it next to my home? No. Do I have unsheltered on my street, on the street over, abandoned cars and tents? Yes. But the point is and to the sex offender, they have structures, but I want you to let you know, why having a sex offender in a tent or an RV or an abandoned vehicle is any different than providing an opportunity for them to get their life in order as opposed to on the street. So.
Okay, so let's go to crime so that we don't leave the commander out. So if crime in the city is down 8.7% according to the website, and crime in shelter zones are down 2.5%, doesn't that mean that there's 3 times more crime at the shelter than there is in the city?
No, I don't look at it that way. It's overall reduction in crime. And in 2020, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but I'm going to briefly get on. In 2020, Portland Police was not defunded. We had a little bit of money taken away, but most of it has come back. What I believe happened in 2020 was a devaluation of laws in our city. And we saw that with an increase in our homicide rate, which we're all responsible for because we live in this city and we own that. I own it as well as your police commander. But we also saw an increase in traffic deaths. Okay, people were driving at 80, 90, 100 miles an hour. Anybody in here been passed by a driver going that fast? That is a lot of the resulting in deadly crashes in our city. And we have worked tirelessly for the last 5 years to put it back. I have been here at Central Precinct for a year now, and the story I told you about working on the open air drug dealing, I am doing my very best with what I have to try and change the narrative of things down here. We've had some very successful events that have happened downtown. 30, 40,000 people, Cinco de Mayo, a Post Malone concert, Pride, all of these things going successfully. And I am doing everything I can to make sure that we continue in this direction. Crime is down throughout the city, and it's through this collaborative effort with all the city partners coming together, our city councilors' support. We just passed our budget, and the Portland Police Bureau is not taking a cut. That will allow us to continue pushing the crime numbers down, and we need your help. This is not the police doing it by ourselves. I need your help in doing this. And I hear you, and I hear you. And so what we do with what we have is, one of the things we're working on right now is problem-oriented policing. I'd love to have 3,000 police officers, but I don't. And with the police officers that I have, what we try to do is be strategic. We do missions. I have taken police officers out of patrol districts and put them on bikes. They're up here in the Pearl every day that they work. And when I have them on bikes, they can go down one-way streets. They can see things more clear and have more of an impact. So, okay. And I'm not gonna lie and say that we've solved all crime problems because we haven't.
Right.
But we're going to continue to work with what we have and do our best to bring those crime numbers down even further. So I don't believe that a lesser reduction around a shelter is indicative of twice the crime. I have a great relationship with the Salvation Army, where they can come down and have conversations with me directly. Our Safes shelter site down on 2nd and Burnside, that area of town, we have a lot of social service providers, a lot of people in and out of that area. But the shelter itself, I cannot think of a single problem that we've had with the operation of that shelter. So at least, you know, I think we have to at least give it a chance. I'm telling you that I'm willing to be a partner in this and have my police officers be available for the extra patrol that's potentially needed in a situation like this. But I want to give the mayor and Director Brocker-Knapp a chance at that outreach. It's working in some other sites across the city. I meet with them once a week. Director Brocker-Knapp and I are on a conference call once a week to talk about the Portland solutions and the camping and the cleanups that we're doing throughout the city. So this is a new form of city government. It's only been in place for 8 months. Our city councilors here, 8 months on the job. I'm really inspired by the work that we're doing. I just ask you to give us a chance to let it work. And I'm committed. I'm staying. I could have retired last May. Chief Day could have retired. But we're staying here for the purpose of seeing Portland do better and be in a better place.
Okay. So I think some of the frustration is that it's fatigue, it's reporting fatigue. And you've mentioned it earlier, everybody's talked about it. You know, you call and you wait, nobody comes, and so you don't report it. So it goes unreported. So reported crime, I get it, it's probably down. But unreported crime, I think is something that, from the people that have reached out to us that are around those shelters, is there. And the fact that you're having people that steal $30,000, $40,000 automobiles doubling, maybe, 40% more, 100% more, doesn't give a lot of confidence for people in the Pearl who park on the street, the people that right next to LA Fitness, they're worried that their cars are going to get smashed, that the windows are going to get smashed. So, I mean, it's a real concern. I just want to emphasize that so you know. I mean, it already happens now. It's not that's not happening now. They just don't want it to happen more. So, and quite a bit less. So again, one of the comments is we don't see police around, and I live in the north end of the Pearl, and I can't say that it's a rare occasion to see a car, but it's not as rare as it used to be. I mean, we see more of it, but there isn't quite the presence that it seems like there was before. And is the city? The question is, why is the city opposed to increase the number of police? And maybe this is a commissioner's or a councilor's question. We have one of the lowest percentages of police per 1,000 residents in the country. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so I guess, we could ask the mayor to respond to that, and then we will hold this out for the councilors also.
Commander Hughes, first of all, thank you for your commitment. From day one, he's been at the table working with me, listening, and agrees and is supporting what our plan is. So thank you. And Chief Day, every Monday, I meet with Chief Day and we go through the plan, and now we're going through this hiring plan. And so that's the question. He has a 3.5-year goal that he wants to hit, and my goal is to fund and help him reach that target. But we have to have that very clear goal on what we want to achieve, and so we're setting that up. Now, when I met with Chief, I explained to him on the budget, $318 million budget, my original goal was $8 million increase, because we have one of the lowest officer to citizen ratio in the nation. We're 1.26, the average is 2. So we clearly see that our outcomes are poor performing. We have the lowest arrest rate that I found anywhere, 5%. If 100 property crime events occur, 5 of those individuals will be arrested. When I compare that, we're right there with Oakland, we're right there with St. Louis. This is Portland. Chief and I worked for months on what should be the appropriate goal of an increase. We pared it down to $2 million because he saw the cut exercise we were going through. He said, Keith, so long as we continue a positive movement forward, we can continue the recruitment, we can do the retention, we can do the training and move forward. Unfortunately, when I brought forward that in my budget, it did not make it through council. An amendment was proffered to reduce it. down to the amount that we're at. It's not an amount that we need to be at. We're not at a level in which workplace safety is fair for the officers. We have some officers working 90 hours a week, some working 80 hours every week for 52 weeks. In a high-performing, high-standards operation, the first thing you do as an employer is you take care of your employees, and we're putting officers on the street, frankly, that are just putting their hands high because they see what's going on in the community. We have a great police force. They are a wonderful group of men and women doing their level best in very difficult circumstances. I believe that, based on what your concerns are, and I know that you email me often saying, this is what's going on, but please, I ask that you email your counselors. You have 3 wonderful representatives here who want to come and visit your business, to your neighborhood. Let them know what's going on, so when we bring forward a budget increase, they understand what you're experiencing, and we can get that budget higher so we can bring the officers on staff, so we can get the call response times lower, because only then can we really start to care for those property crime issues. But right now, we're undermanned. We're going to person-to-person crimes and priority crimes, but the level 2 calls and level 3 calls are being held, and you're waiting too long for basic service. And when we see what they're responding in an inordinate amount of time to those that are living on the street. Let's address that, get rid of that largest call volume, and then move to the next, and we can actually start responding to property crimes when you have the need.
Well, it's not a written question. You want to write it down and give it to me? So, anyway, what's being done to reinforce support for the critical employers in the Pearl? And when I'm talking about employers, I'm not just talking about Safeway. There's Whole Foods. There's Ampere Computing that has 300 people down the street. There's On, and there's a number of other small businesses. So what's being done to help them not just survive, but thrive? I mean, prior to the shelter issue, there was a little bit of a revival happening in the Pearl. And as you can probably tell by the number of people here, it's kind of put a pall over the Pearl. So is there something that you're contemplating or gonna do regarding the business community?
So you're looking, we were doing a situation where we credited if you were going to renew a lease, but that means that if you have a lease, you're going to be left out. We have to get back to just basic services like public safety and livability. We see foot traffic in the core increasing 7% in the first quarter, 9% in March alone. I can't wait to see the second quarter numbers. We've moved the Rose Festival back downtown, the Pride Parade, all these events that we see, the vibrancy starting to come back. We're starting to see a reduction. We'll wait a couple months. I'll bring that back up. We have to be able to respond from a public safety standpoint. It has to be the point when you're walking out for dinner or walking to the store. It's a basic routine in your life, and you're not seeing those suffering on the street. It has to be that when you're going to a movie that you can do that and know that your bike's not going to be stolen during that just basic livability part. So it's restoring trust in public safety. It's restoring the trust in the city that we can provide the safety that you need and the livability that you require. And then businesses will thrive. We thrived for 40 years. We grew. If you put $1 into Portland, you knew you got $1.05 out of it. Today, right now, if you put $1 in, you're ending up with 95 cents the next day. How do we encourage businesses to move to Portland when you're not going to earn income or return on that investment? So that's the basic equation that we're working on. That's that economic activity that we have got to be focused on. It starts with livability and basic public safety system response.
So there's a lot of comments that have to do with the fact that this is not a homeless issue, but it's really an addiction and mental health issue. So, and I guess that it's, you know, I think somebody said water's wet and rocks are hard and you see what you see. And so what I think everybody is seeing is that in our part of the world, our part of Portland, and where we walk to the rest of the area of Portland, because we have with 35% seniors, the Pearl was designed to be a walkable city. It's a very walkable city, but people walk in fear today, and they walk in fear not because somebody's going to lose their home or their apartment. They're walking in fear because somebody is overdosed on drugs. That's meth instead of fentanyl. So fentanyl, you have the bend. Meth, they're superhuman. And like what happened at the front of the Metropolitan, where the person just walked down, just punched the lady, broke her nose. So, the point is if it's a mental health issue and it's a drug addiction issue, how can we make sure that those people are getting served and housed? Because just putting them overnight just rests them up for getting activity the next day.
You know, I just simply tell the story about my neighbor Elizabeth. Don't do it?
I don't. What? Hold on.
Okay. Wait.
Hold on. Give him a.
No,
give
no.
it. Hey, hold on.
So let me just she was addicted for a year, living in a tent and then dealers in the next tent. And oftentimes we provided her the tent, and then we'll sweep it and we'll provide another tent. We've been fostering this behavior, but we're not fostering that anymore. The tents you've seen going away. If somebody's released or goes to detox today at Hooper, there's a 20% chance we release them back to the street, and the dealer's waiting for them. And so we've created this cycle. When we release people from the jail, we release them to the street. We're working with the jail now. We're telling them, don't release people to being homeless. We have shelter for you now. We're working with that. Hooper is working with us. Unity is working with us. But we can provide, but that's just the beginning. We don't let people get back to the street. The overnight shelter is just simply a stop in the next process to a 24/7 shelter and the process to recovery, or we help them get back home. And it's also having additional recovery. We have 60 dual diagnosis beds that just opened on Burnside. 4D Recovery is opening more beds in the fall. We continue to flood the market with addiction and recovery bed and mental, but if we continue to see unsheltered homelessness grow 1,000 souls every single year, we frankly can't keep up. We have got to stop the inflow and address those that we have on the street and then focus on the outflow and reduce unsheltered homelessness, taking the burden off of our already overburdened public safety system and the treatment system, which is as burdened as well.
Okay, so I've got one more question, and then we're going to get to the counselors because we're not going to let them get out without. So the question is really why do people, why is the homeless it's a complicated question, but why is the homeless population growing so fast? Is it because the question is, do we treat them too well? Well, why are we attracted to the homeless population, and particularly the drug population?
Well, there's so many different inputs. You know, there's obviously a housing crisis, but I do believe, and I know that that's prevalent in other areas. You look at Boston, they have less than 200 people on the street, and they have housing affordability issues. It's higher than Portland. But they robustly address those that are living on the street. They don't allow tent encampment. They don't allow people to live in a doorway. You look at Philadelphia, and they mostly only have overnight shelters, and they have less than 700 people living on the street. Portland, we have 7,000. Boise, they manage their codes. They have the same circumstances we do. They have higher affordability issues, and they have less than 100. So I turn to you and say, why do they have unsheltered rates at a fraction of what we are? Well, we were handing out tents for years. I mean, when you foster the behavior you're trying to address, it certainly isn't going to discourage people from coming to the street. We passed Measure 110. We decriminalized the hardest drugs known to man. And then we have an issue with addicts living on the street, stealing for that next hit that they need within an hour. And we're addressing, I can tell you, we're arresting drug users now at levels that we haven't in years. So we have to turn the tide and give our public safety system a chance to get caught up. Because I can tell you, I mean, just looking around the library, the arrest rate for open drug use has gone up like 300%. You see, we haven't had that. That's something new. So yeah, we're seeing a reduction in crime rate, but we're seeing an increase in open drug use arrests. Commander Hughes is doing his job, doing the best he can with the men and the women that he has today. But we're not fostering that behavior on the street anymore. We're not handing out tents anymore. We're providing life-saving care. We're removing RVs. We're removing cars. We're removing trucks. We're removing the inflow items, and then we're going to be asking, I want to help you. What does it look like? But you can't stay here. But with our overnight shelters and the shelter investment, there's a better place than here. Commander Hughes isn't just moving a person from 10th to 11th. We're providing that outcome. But you can't stay here. You can't be in the tent anymore. It's time to come in, but you're not going to be in that corridor anymore. And it can't be that you sleep on the street or you have the bends on the street. And then we have to have a public safety system and a criminal justice system that doesn't just allow somebody to have a person crime and then get right back out on the street an hour later. So we have to take the pressure off of that system and allow our officers to do their job and do it well. But we can do that by providing basic nighttime care for those that are in need and take the street away from a destination, which is what we need to do.
Okay, so we've got the mayor for 6 more minutes. If we can get the councilors to hold on, and anybody who wants to stay after the mayor's gone, and we should all stay, if that's okay with you. Okay, so.
Thank you, councilors. I know I wasn't invited to this, or I might have been invited, but I appreciate you allowing me this opportunity.
So. So the Pearl has had a shelter here for 5 or 6 years. It's called the Navigation Center. And despite the best efforts and best intentions of everybody, it continues to be, some people call it a disaster. I'll call it just a major disappointment. It's a scar on the Nato Parkway and the people at McCormick Pier. It's just devastated them. And so the question really is, so we've had to practice with that. Why is this going to be any different? I mean, they said it was going to be perfect too.
No, that's an important question. What's that? Yeah, no, that's a very important question. That's a county managed shelter. I know. But understand, they don't have what the mayor has. I control the public space, and I work with, and the police work at my direction. The county didn't have that. They signed a good neighbor agreement with you without having public space management, without having access to the street sweepers and the graffiti abatement individuals, or to be able to use the public safety. As the mayor, I have unique opportunity to state, and an officer has been with me when I've been working with you and or Bruce and Bill on the meetings at the facility. At officers, I can bring the officers, and then they can make a promise to you. They will respond. The tent encampments, when somebody posts a tent in your community, Sky will have it removed immediately because it immediately points out there's no more reporter when you have the shelter. That's what you get in that engagement zone. This is not unique. The Embarcadero in San Francisco has an engagement zone. I simply took it from them. They have the Embarcadero Navigation Center right next to Fisherman's Wharf. The community was as concerned as you were. That is a unique World Heritage Site. They just renewed that navigation center there, because the city of San Francisco manages it, not the county. The county doesn't have access to the resources the mayor has. That's why the Moore Street is working so well. That's why the Safe Shelter is working so well. And that's why St. Stephen's and Church of Nazarene and Northrop will work so well, because when you have a community issue, they will be addressing it. We will start small, we will make it right, we will meet your needs, and we will exceed your expectations, because we have to.
So just to be clear, the Navigation Center was run by the county, but isn't it run by the city now?
Okay, it's a little complicated. So the county holds the provider contract, so they control what happens on the site. The city took the permit for the land, but we do not control the provider that's operating the site. So it's not under our purview in the same way that, like, the Northrop shelter, for example, will be under our purview completely.
So the tents and the cars that sit there for weeks at a time are whose responsibility?
We still ask you to report it, and we still try to get to everything as fast as possible, but it doesn't have the same engagement zone that the mayor's talking about.
Well, okay. There is a car there that's been there for 3 weeks that
We're at a 6-week delay with PBOT right now,
needs
but
to
I
be-
will put it on the list first.
maybe they should have been up here in that empty chair. Okay, so one more and then we'll go to the councilors. I could do a gotcha, but, okay, so, yeah. So first of all, I want to thank NWCC for providing complimentary security for tonight's event. And so they have been amazing. They were started because the community needed support and help that the city wasn't providing. And over the past 2.5 years, we've as a community have spent over $2 million on both security and, probably even more important, humanitarian outreach. And it's hopefully something that you guys can kind of reach out and kind of connect with, if that's going to be helpful. So,
Can I just say something on that real quick? Chase, are you here in the audience? Chase, this is a person here from NWCC that values relationship building. He and I have formed a relationship over the last year. I appreciate what Chase has been able to do. He has a direct line to me. We've run coordinated efforts based on camping locations, based on Chase's feedback. And I just wanted to say thank you, Chase, for all your work and working with me and my team.
okay. It's 7 o'clock, and if you guys are pissed with me because I didn't get to your snarky questions, I'll take the hit for that. So I think we want to thank the mayor and thank the commander and Skylar. Okay, they have to go?
Hard stops.
They have a hard stop at 7?
So the councilors will have to have brunch with them.
Okay, so there's a hard stop at 7? Are you sure? Hold on. They're saying there's a hard stop on the facility at 7, so just let me clarify. Okay. Councilors, come up here. All 3 of you, have a seat. We'll change places. We've got the facility for another 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
The questions to the councilors will be... Thank them. Eric is, we lost Eric? Who did we lose? Eric. Okay. Okay. So the question is, why is the city opposed to increase the number of police and have the lowest percentage of policing in 1,000 residents? And really, I want Councilor Green to answer this one because I don't know if I was right on this. You can tell me if I'm wrong. Was there like a trade with the Parks Department and the police? And the reason that might be a little sensitive to us here is because Fields Park has been under construction for 2 years, and City Corps or Pacific Corps has paid the city $4 million, and we've received none of that back. Although we've received the unsightliness and the unorganized part of it that the parks have been responsible for the last 3 months. So could you respond to the police question? Okay.
I appreciate the question. So the budget was in 2 phases. On May 21st, I did vote for an amendment that moved $2 million over and above what the chief had asked for in the original proposed that the mayor talked about over to parks, because I heard from a lot of Portlanders who said we think these parks maintenance cuts are unacceptable. Your example notwithstanding. On the second time that the city council met, I introduced an amendment that moved $2.2 million that was overage from the budget into a public safety set-aside to support the very capacity, recruitment, and enhancement dollars that the DCA of Public Safety, Bob Kazi, and all the Public Safety Bureau heads have talked about needing to control their overtime. So I did vote for a final budget that did not cut a dime of public safety dollars.
Okay. All right. Olivia, you want to?
Do I get to say something about that?
The question is, yeah, do you,
About the police?
why is the city opposed to the increased number of police?
Well, I'm not opposed to
Okay.
increasing the number of police.
Okay.
I mean, I would have put more money in the police budget, for God's sake. I don't like the response times. I ran on that. I talked about that during my campaign. You know, we've got to reduce the response times, and we need more officers. I go to the induction ceremonies for the officers. Our recruitment is going pretty well, but we need to really ratchet it up. But that takes money. We need to put more money into the police budget. So there.
Do you agree we need more police? So I'll speak so Mitch doesn't have to jump in there. I'll answer. I want to just say thank you for letting me wear my hat. I'm saving you all from seeing what it looks like when you have a bad sunburn and no hair. So I'm not trying to be rude. I think I got the gist of the question because I was coming in. If the mayor's $8 million had hit the budget, I would have voted for it. All right. Olivia and I sit in a pretty deep minority on our city council right now. And to get to the point of the question is, we don't have the votes in our minority status right now to increase the number of authorizations of police. And I think that we should. But I think that I was happy that we were able to stop cuts from happening in a significant manner and preserve, but we were not able to go far enough. Yeah.
All right, let's put Mitch back in the hot seat. So Mitch, are you in favor of more police?
I'm in favor of helping the police hire to their authorization right now, and as they hit that capacity, we can increase the budget. But what I'm not in favor of is cutting deeply into the parks budget, or the other parts of the general fund, including our Bureau of Transportation, to move money into a bureau that still has a hiring bottleneck. And that's a fact. They have 90 authorizations that they need to fill, and they are trying to fill, and it's going to take many years to do so. So I'm not proposing cutting the authorization. What I am proposing is giving them the money to use those authorizations to fill their overtime and then backfill that so they can hire up and kind of move towards a sustainable model. I know that there was a survey going around at some point during this, I think it was a poll, and there was a suggestion that Portlanders wanted to double the size of the Portland police budget. And I hear that, but I will tell you, that would take the rest of the general fund. Or you've got to raise your property taxes 40%. So there is a question about how to pay for this, and I'm not willing to.
Okay, so let's get to the shelter issue. So we'll start with you again, Mitch, since you're on the hot seat. First question, do you support the mayor's sheltering program?
I voted for the mayor because he was offering an innovative approach to housing that no one had been trying. I voted for a budget because I wanted to give that mayor the resources to execute. I think it's unfair to have an executive say, are you on board with this plan, and then not give him the resources to do that plan. That doesn't set him up for success. What I will say is that part of my job on city council is oversight. And so if the mayor's not delivering on the promises in the plan that the taxpayers have funded, that my vote has validated, then I'm going to hold them accountable, for sure. And this is not a blank check year over year. Get people triaged and off of the streets so they can be placed where they need to go in the long run. That is not a forever model in my view. So that's my answer to that.
Okay, and the follow-up to that is, do you support the siting of the shelter at Northrop?
Like I said, I'm not going to be a speed bump in the mayor's execution plans. If this community wants to come together and find a different location and offer that to the mayor, then I'll talk to you.
Okay. Olivia, same two questions?
Well, first, I just want to say that I really appreciate the mayor. His car is at City Hall all the time, early in the morning, late at night, on the weekend. Nobody's working harder than Mayor Wilson. And I really appreciate his passion, his concern, his care very much. Overall, okay, I support the plan overall, but it's incomplete. And I think as some of the audience members have brought up, I'm very concerned about the strategy around mental health and addiction. That's what's stuck in my craw about this, and that's something that I want to work on, but that's more, I'm sorry folks, but it is a county responsibility. It's not something that the city does. We can put pressure on the county, work with the county, cajole the county, but that's their function, not ours. And dealing with homelessness didn't used to be a city issue either, and the county wasn't performing, and Mayor Wheeler stepped in. As far as this Northrop proposal, I wish there was another site. I don't know. I think there are complications with the Bybee Lake situation, but be that as it may, I really wish there were more facilities in the other districts that haven't suffered the way we have in this district. You know, when I ran for office, and I met with many of you in the audience, I learned about the Conservancy organization. It was fantastic. I also learned about the Potty Patrol. And I talked about it all the time, that there are people in this neighborhood that go out and patrol every day and pick up human waste, and that just about killed me. And there's one of them. So I feel like we already have a problem here. I have to believe that all of the resources that the mayor says are coming with the engagement zone are actually going to make a difference. I have to believe that. I have to be vigilant that they will be effective. If what he says is true about the shelters that have been placed in other parts of the city where these resources have been dedicated, it's made a difference, great, let's see if it can make a difference here. So I'm very cautious about it. I'm not happy about it, but I will be vigilant.
Okay.
Thanks. To the overall question about a sheltering plan, I do support an overall sheltering plan. I think that what we went through as a city, as a county, over the last decade of accepting that street camping was an acceptable method sanctioned by government was asinine. And so I feel strongly that to get out of that craziness, we do have to do a sheltering plan. Some of you know that I worked for the County Commissioner, Julia Brim Edwards, before I was elected to this seat. And one of the things that we worked on there was getting the county to finally start investing in real numbers, their shelter commitment, because it was going to take that number. And putting that together with the mayor's number, it was a pretty good number of shelters in order to get to the point where we can see a significant reduction in street camping. The county has already backed off that number that they agreed to fund last year by a significant amount. I think we're up to 40% reduction. So that's really troubling, but it doesn't change my fact that I think government-sanctioned street camping is not a solution. It's terrible. It has ruined our neighborhoods. It's ruined this neighborhood and every neighborhood in District 4. To this shelter in particular, my very first meeting with the mayor, because I have some history on shelters. I helped write the very first Good Neighbor Agreement for the task site at 13th and Powell, It's the only good neighbor agreement in the city that is still working, that the neighbors actually can get things fixed from. So I believe that it can happen. And I told him on my very first meeting with him after we were elected that my support for his sheltering plan is dependent on seeing good neighbor agreements or something very similar so that neighbors have a way to address a problem, that neighbors have expectations for no queuing, no dealing, no trash, no camping in the vicinity, and if it does happen, they don't have to follow the same 72-hour rule that the state makes us follow for all other camp cleanups. He knows my expectations. I am very concerned about this nighttime shelter model. I am very concerned, as a person who, right, I've been a renter in the Pearl District, I'm currently a property owner in the Pearl District. I have been assaulted underneath the 405 in a pretty terrible way. I really worry about what a 6 a.m. release point looks like, because that to me looks like it was designed to meet a certain number of hours and not cognizant of what goes on at 6 a.m. in this neighborhood, which is we all walk our dogs to go to work and the streets aren't very full yet. And when tough behavior is happening and you're the only other person on the block, that is much scarier than when you have 100 other well-behaved people on the block with you that happens at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. So my goal here is to, because I don't think it's not going to happen. I think he's going to do this. So my goal here is to make the neighbors get a good neighbor agreement, get some rules around it, take a look at these closure times to see if it is reasonable or if it was just a number put on the page. So I'm skeptically supportive at this point if he puts those parameters that I told him 9 months ago in November when we met, that's the parameter for me to be supportive.
Okay. So you answered the last question, so Olivia, let's go to you. If the shelter comes, how can you help to make sure that issues are addressed and resolved expediently? And that means before it gets to the problem solvers meeting 2 weeks later.
Well, you have to let me know what's happening, first of all. I need to know from you what's happening. I know people are tired of reporting, but it's report, report, report. People have to know what's going on. What I can do is put pressure on the mayor, on the administration to actually perform, to live up to the promises that they've made on the engagement zone for the graffiti removal, the trash removal, additional public safety resources, all of those things. It sounds really good. They have to perform. If they don't, I'll be chasing them around.
Okay.
I don't, as the new form of government, we don't manage anything. As Mitch said, we have an oversight responsibility, but we don't, pull the strings on the money. We approve the budget, once a year. But I'm not a manager of a bureau. All I can do is put pressure on the mayor and the city manager to perform in the way that they've said they will.
Okay. Mitch?
Yeah, I just want to echo everything that Councilor Clark said. My staff attends the problem solvers meetings. I see your emails. I don't always respond to them. It's a large volume of emails, but I read them. And we're going to use our committee system and use the influence we have as city councilors, do that regulatory oversight to hold this mayor accountable. But I think he really genuinely wants to succeed. I want him to succeed, but I'll be there with my fellow colleagues here to make sure that you're, represented in this because it's your tax dollars.
Okay, that's it. It's a wrap.